live from your ESG-powered hot dog steamer. It's Business Pants Friday show.
Woohoo!
Here at August 10th Lane Studios, featuring all your favorites, and by all, I mean some of your favorites.
A few.
Half of our
literally like 1/10 of our favorites. Ari, the Data Queen, is still not here because she's busy changing a dirty diaper full of S&P ESG credit grades. And Damien had a power outage.
supposedly.
That's what he said. Yeah, right. A power outage. Instead, we're joined by Jesse, the Money Whisperer. And do you have a nickname?
No, I don't.
That's it.
Chris.
It's just Chris. And
Matt's brother.
he is somehow related to me, and I am your analyst, Matt Mascardi. On today's weekly wrap-up, we have all the same things we normally have. We have Story of the Week, we have Assholiest of the Week, and Exhaustingest of the Week, and Goodliest of the Week. But we're going to mix it up today because Damien's not here and Ari's not here. In fact, Chris, who's been our producer in the booth for like 6 years, 6 of the 4 years we've done this podcast.
For such a long time.
You've been the producer. So Chris is going to do the Goodliest, and I'll handle the Story of the Week and Asshole of the Week. But we're going to mix up the order.
That's a lot of you today,
I know.
Matt.
Is that no one? I've never gotten one comment on like social that says,
And you
hey,
did a show alone this week.
Hey, we need more Matt.
Yeah, there's not enough Matt saying stuff at us.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of that. All right, let's just get to it. There's a lot to cover, thanks to Damien. We're going to start with Assholiest of the Week. We're going to start off light and end horrible. So let's do Assholiest of the Week. First up, I've got 3 to choose from, and it was hard not to have 7, so I've cut this down.
Mine was hard too. It looks like we all had a...
It was a busy week.
Mine was hard to find any. For
Oh.
Goodliest.
Yeah, I know, Goodliest.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we all took it from me.
First asshole of the week is John Schnatter. Do you know who John Schnatter is?
I saw some headlines, but I don't know the
Papa
story.
John Schnatter. He is the founder, it was the CEO of Papa John's.
That always annoyed me that his name was not Italian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Schnatter.
Don't make me
yeah.
pizza.
He just decided to make himself Italian by calling him
Papa John.
Yeah, he was Papa John, yeah. Here's a short timeline of John Schnatter, and then I'll get to why he made it this week. First, he criticizes, this is back in 2016, 2017, he criticizes the anthem protests of NFL players who are taking a knee during the anthem because he believed that it hurt sales. Here's a quote from him. Now, this is from an earnings call. He says this on an earnings call. To the NFL is hurting, and more importantly, by not resolving the current debacle to the player and owner satisfaction, NFL leadership has hurt Papa John's shareholders. So he calls the anthem protest a debacle and says it hurt shareholders, and he's mad at the NFL because they spent $40 million that year in advertising with in sponsorship with the NFL. And the NFL viewership was going down. Donald Trump was attacking the NFL. It was all a big bit to do. He says a whole lot more, but neo-Nazis then declare Papa John's as their pizza of choice. Jesus. After he says this, here's a quote from an article in 2017. In the days after Schnatter's remark, white supremacist publication The Daily Stormer dubbed Papa John's as the official pizza of the alt-right.
The best pizza for the SS.
Are you pleased with yourself, John Schnatter?
Shatner?
Shatner.
No, he's suddenly a Star Trek. Yeah.
Schnatter.
I just like what goes on an alt-right pizza? Like, what is the topping of an alt-right
Definitely
pizza?
bacon.
I mean, it can't possibly be olives, right?
Pineapple
No,
and
it
hate.
can't be
Pineapple and hate.
Pineapple.
There's got to be meat on that.
Is the
though,
hate
I feel
under
like.
the cheese or on top of the cheese?
No, it's stuffed in the crust.
Oh, I think it's like
hate crust.
bison
It's a
too.
hate stuffed crust.
Got it. Then he goes out and he hires this company called Laundry Service, who does basically media training and media prep for when CEOs say dumb things, they hire services to tell them not dumb things to say. They train them on not dumb things. It's a brand of Casey Wasserman, who's actually a board member on Activision Blizzard, so he's real good at his job because he's working with Bobby Kotick. And immediately they start trying to clean up by setting Schnatter up to talk to Stephen A. Smith, who is a black analyst on ESPN. and they're trying to like set up a conversation. And then Schnatter goes and says on a recorded conference call with laundry service where they're doing media training, he goes and says the N-word on the conference call, and the audio is released. Quote, "What bothers me is Colonel Sanders calls blacks N-word. I'm like, I've never used that word, and they get away with it. Yet we use the word debacle and we get framed in the same genre. It's crazy. The whole thing's crazy." Schnatter says the whole thing's taken out of context, releases the entire transcript,
Lord.
in which it's very not taken out of context. It's not at all taken out of context. He goes on long rants about how the NFL screwed up and like how like this is all terrible. In fact, the first question on Laundry Services list of questions that they expect him to answer is, "Are you a racist?" The very first question. This is taken from the call. He doesn't quite answer the question, but this is one of the laundry service people after Schnatter leaves the call saying, quote, "I think the most uncomfortable part of this whole thing, beyond all the uncomfortable parts, were that when we said, are you racist?" He first read that question. He had to ask the rest of the team if he's still working with certain like community or committees still. He basically went around the group and said, "Do we have any black people that we're working with? See, I can't be racist." That's what he did. That was the very first thing, okay? Schnatter went on to sue laundry service. He's claimed that they leaked a misleading audio. They wanted to intentionally hurt Schnatter and Papa John's, effectively that they're lefties and woke, without saying that. He alleged that the conference call with laundry service was a setup, and believed that it's demonstrated by the comments on the secret recording by the firm. Secret recording, it's like a Zoom call, right? Like they're all freaking recorded.
Which is now training their AI.
And has a pop-up that says, "This is recorded. Are you okay with this?"
This is okay. Yeah, this is recording. Although this is in like 2017, so maybe the pop-up didn't exist, but come on. Now, this is the headline from just yesterday. Papa John's founder John Schnatter's case will go to trial. And Papa John himself, John Schnatter, put out a press release saying Papa John Schnatter wins major ruling, lawsuit against ad firm to proceed. He's very happy that it did not get thrown out, that he's taking them to trial. And the judge will be Judge Benjamin Beaton, a Trump-appointed judge.
Oh.
Schnatter actually donated to Trump. He's friends with the Kochs. He's got a whole bunch of hard-righty, anti-woker, stuff going on.
This is depressing.
So John Schnatter, welcome back to the news, Johnny. He was ousted as the CEO.
Long.
He's one of my favorite CEO founders because after all this happens, they toss him from the company. And they went out and brought Shaquille O'Neal and put him on the board. You can hear the board conversation. They were all like sitting around. They were like, okay, he just said the N-word. He's like implying all this racist stuff. How do we fix this? Oh, I know. Let's find the largest, blackest man we can find in the entire world and put him on the board. That's what we're going to do.
And in our commercials.
Having nothing to do with the fact that Shaq is actually eminently qualified. It's very clearly like, that's what we need now for rehabilitation. So John Schnatter, number one. Number two.
That was a doozy.
I know.
Yeah. There's more?
There's two more.
Oh, good.
Number two. Nepo baby NFL owner board member cronyism.
Jesus.
I'm going to let that sink in for a
Yeah.
second.
That's a lot of words.
I need some integration time.
49ers CEO Jed York accused of insider trading and covering up college exam cheating scandal. So the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, or CEO, he's not the owner. His parents are the owner. So he's the Nepo baby CEO. He is on the board of a company called Chegged, which does online education.
Yeah.
They apparently they allowed students to cheat on online exams by there was a scheme they called it chegging. It let students actually find answers to the test questions using a Chegg service. So they actually offered it as a service. And the York and Chegg CEO, Don Rosenweig, dumped shares at the height of the market price after before the scandal, before chegging came out. They dumped their shares, chegging comes out, and it was trading at like, in the 80s, $80 per share, and now it's trading at like 10. So York made 1.4 million after selling his shares. I added in the pre-production sheet the skills matrix so boards put out these skills matrices, and I just like that on the skills matrix, Jed York is tagged as a ESG expert. Maybe not the G part of ESG with the insider trading, but there's a little dot next to Jed York, ESG expert. Yeah, I like that.
But here's my thing. For 1.4 million, did he really even need that?
No, he did not.
He's a Nepo baby. I'm sure he has tons of money. Why? What do you get out of that?
I don't. That's always the question. Martha Stewart was sent to jail for like $10,000 of insider trading.
So crazy.
Although it looks like Jed York, this is a real investigation, and there may be actual consequences for him. Not jail, because he's not Martha Stewart. We're not making an example of Jed York. His are more likely disgorgement, where he pays a penalty, and is never allowed on a board again. But
is he still going to be able to run companies?
Oh, there's no way they're going to drop him from the NFL. He's the Nepo baby. There's no way it happens. So, and number 3, anti-woke bureaucracy. Here, this one actually is a little funny and a little sad. So here's the headline: what a new Missouri ESG rule could mean for your investments. Missouri, after they could not pass a ban on ESG, the Secretary of State actually made just a rule that didn't require legislation. And the rules are not about like what you can and can't do. It's procedures you have to follow if you're going to do something. So what the rule he put in place is everyone who wants to invest with a financial advisor, an asset manager, whatever, they now have to sign a form if the financial advisor or the asset manager is going to do any ESG stuff that says, quote, I consent to my incorporating a social objective or other non-financial objective into any discretionary investment decision. And it goes on to say, effectively, I acknowledge and understand that incorporating a social objective or non-financial objective will result in investments and recommendations that are not solely focused on maximizing a financial return. So they make you sign a piece of paper that says, I consent to allowing you to use social criteria. Now, if this sounds familiar, they just did the same thing in Wyoming. But if this sounds familiar, it's because like I was scratching this itch. And do you know where the template for this comes from? Abortion, in which conservatives made women sign consent forms. So like, for instance, there's one in Wisconsin where women were forced to see an ultrasound of the baby before they could have an abortion by law. And they had to sign a form that says, we have seen the ultrasound, we have been told by a doctor all of these things, we are still consenting to the abortion, that, the health care that we want, effectively. Mm-hmm. They're using the same playbook. They are doing super good paperwork, bureaucracy, anti-wokeism, because they can't get it passed. So those are the 3.
Gross.
I added a 4th. And it was just, but we're not going to talk about it. It was Jeremy's Razors. And if you have 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
It's like 5 minutes.
Well, there's like 3 videos. Harry's Razors apparently had one trans person, much like Bud Light, use a razor once from Harry's. And it spawned Jeremy's Razors, which is a Daily Caller founder, started his own razor company that literally is just like real men do X, you're a pansy. It is the most ridiculous thing. So Jeremy's Razors.
They're made from the melted bayonets of Nazis.
It's literally, there's one point in the video, and I wish we could play this video for everybody, but there's one point in the video where he's like, and Jesse and I watched this together, he's like standing there and he's like, if anyone's telling you your razor is like not, little girls should be using razor, they're wrong. And this scantily clad woman gives him a blowtorch. Yes. He turns with the blowtorch and lights some razors from Harry's on fire, then hands the blowtorch back to the scantily clad woman.
Because that's all she's there for.
Right. They have no lines, right?
No, they're just
I'm guessing her legs
him.
were shaved, though. I mean...
presumably.
Good question. Good question. That seems like a governance question.
Can she use his razor though?
No.
She has to use Harry's.
She has to
use Harry's.
go get Jane's razor. Those are the not Jeremy's.
The Billy razor.
All right, so those are your assholes of the week. John Schnatter, a Nepo NFL owner, insider trading, and anti-woke bureaucracy, paperwork as the new method for anti-woking.
Oh man. Okay.
We'll start with Jesse seems unsure, so we'll start with Chris.
I'm gonna go with insider trading.
Insider trading.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with insider trading because I just feel 1.4 million was it? Nepo baby CEO for the 49ers. This was just. He was just flexing. Like, that's all he was doing.
Bored.
I like
He was bored.
Flex.
Right? He was bored. And that seems... We all knew John Schnatter was an asshole. Like, that is not
this
news,
is true.
right?
That's true.
And we also knew that bureaucracy is an asshole. So... I'm not surprised by either of those stories, nor am I really surprised that this guy was, was
I like
also
choosing
an asshole,
metaphysical assholes.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy in general is an asshole, in my experience. So I'm going to go with the NFL
the Nepo baby.
Yep.
Jesse, you have a vote?
I think I'm leaning towards bureaucracy.
Wow.
That's tricky. That's going to get a lot of people.
Wow. All right. So that means I have to break the tie.
You do.
I love breaking ties because I get to do whatever I want. I think you're right that John Schnatter is a continuing asshole. It's really hard to call him asshole of the week. I just wanted an excuse to talk about him again.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's all
we
that
missed
was.
him. We did.
In which case, that leaves me with NFL, Jed York, NFL owner, or anti-woke bureaucracy. I really, I sort of secretly admire the bureaucracy. It's sort of genius.
It's almost a little clever, right? It's almost a little
like
bit
they
clever.
do everything so badly.
Right.
That it's all like this little bit of cleverness. In fact, I've asked the Wyoming Secretary of State to join the show.
That doesn't boil your blood, though.
It does, but it's also kind of like, how many things do you have to sign when you like sign up for an account with Schwab or something? What's one more fucking thing? Just put your name on it and be like, whatever, I don't care. Like, this is dumb. Like, I'm just gonna sign it. And it is fake. Like, it's totally fake. Which leaves me with Jed York. I do feel like Jed York is an actual new asshole of the week.
Jed York, ESG expert.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Somehow he got that title.
ESG expert Jed York.
There was definitely some assholing going on behind the scenes to get that title.
Asshole of the week, which means we're going to
Goodliest. A shirt.
Goodliest.
We should send him a shirt.
Yes.
Maybe he'll wear it when he's
That would
on
be amazing.
trial.
I 100% sure he will not wear it. Goodliest of the week. We have no idea what these are. Chris did them on his own.
Yeah,
so.
these are. So I definitely don't have the level of in-depth analysis that you have.
No,
for
just
yours.
that's good because that means they'll be short.
They will be short. That much I can guarantee.
That was excessive.
Okay, so two of these are actually renewables related, and then one is different.
Tell me one's a battery. I'm hoping one's a battery.
Well, in a sense.
it's a battery.
In a sense. Okay, so my first, I'm grouping the first two together. Okay, I have four stories. I'm grouping the first two together, and you'll see why in a minute.
Okay.
First is that in California, the number of EVs that are sold is ticking up. I don't think this is really news to anyone, right? Necessarily.
Yeah,
It's gone from 19% of all vehicles sold were either EVs or otherwise zero emissions, up to 25%, and that's between Q1 and Q2 2023. So in 1 quarter, it's ticked up fairly significantly.
1 quarter.
Now, but the other part of this Goodliest is a story from the Washington Post that they dug pretty deeply into what costs more, refilling your gas tank or recharging your car across all 50 states. So there's a whole bunch of math in there that I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't-
But they really dug into the analysis of what's better for taking emissions out of the equation in terms of, all right, the pollution from the battery and the whatever. Across the board, it is far cheaper to recharge your battery than to fill up the gas tank.
Well, that seems right. That feels
those
right,
are
yeah.
pretty obvious things. But when you put those two things together, I don't know. That seems like a pretty good story overall,
that.
right?
Okay.
All right.
Meh.
So that's
Meh.
number one.
It's a big meh.
It's sort of a meh. The next, there were a lot of meh good stories.
Yeah, that's
the past week. Like nothing good happened.
That's most of Ari's stories.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
bad for. I have a lot more respect for what Ari does now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is solar power helps keep Europe's grid reliable in historic heat. We have all been burning alive, basically.
Yeah,
last
that's
month,
true.
all of July. So temps across Europe reached over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius because we're in America.
America.
Over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, like all over Europe, basically. I think it was Greece got hit particularly hard. Sicily, Italy got hit particularly hard. But because of solar power installations that have been going up over the past 5-10 years, their grids did not crap out.
Oh, I
basically.
like that. I like that. Okay.
So
That's good.
Progress.
Sicily provided over half its excess demand with solar, which was around 1.3 gigawatts. That's an impressive amount from
I
solar.
just like giga something. Giga
these
anything.
are gigawatts. Spain's entire electric output is 25% solar, which was up from 16% in 2022, right? So they're on,
Go
and
Spain.
Greece covered 1/3 of the nation's 10.35 gigawatts. So about 3.5 gigawatts of Spain's overall electric output is solar powered.
Wow.
Europe's on the right track, right, for
Love that.
solar power. Now, again, we're not going to dive into the supply chain of solar panels or the circular economy behind it. What happens to them when they crap out? Whatever.
Everything
This
sucks
is good news.
somehow. Come on.
Everything sucks somehow, right? It's hard to find a good story. And then the last one that I have is not renewables related, but we have all been either talking about or reading about the UPS union wins.
Yeah. That,
Right. So as a direct result of this, I loved seeing this story. As a direct result of this, the headline was, "Everyone wants to work at UPS after Teamsters deal."
yeah, that does seem. I mean, like, look.
Order more packages.
Here's the crazy part. All they did was say they were going to install air conditioners. That's what the end
Yes.
raised the.
I bet
they
all of
raised the
Europe
hourly.
wants
It's pay
that
raises.
too.
It's
Yeah.
pay raises. So
Pay raises.
it was
Look what
a
an air
30
conditioner
it was a
gets you.
$30 billion deal in new money over a 5-year contract, right? And that for full-time drivers, that's $170K in annual pay and benefits by the end of the 5 years. For part-time union employees, it's at least $25.75 per hour with full healthcare and pension benefits. So like these are some pretty, plus air conditioning in your truck, right? I mean, so these are some.
Everybody likes an air conditioner.
These are some pretty big step
I
ups
can
for
commiserate.
their employees. So Indeed saw a 50% spike in searches with UPS
Wow.
or United Parcel Service in the job title since announcing that win.
Here's the insane thing. If I'm going to take the cynic's view of that, which is easy for me to do, what the hell are they waiting for? They've had driver shortages forever, right? They give them like 30 cents and they are flooded with applications.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
exactly
goes to
what
show you
happened.
like what when we talk about like labor and we talk about like, union negotiations, like right now there's a Hollywood strike going on. And now it's a different dynamic of the Hollywood strike, but come
You're
on.
waiting
like,
for a female CEO
people are
to
getting-
care.
That's true. There is a female CEO
Or to take
at
the blame.
UPS.
We don't know.
Or to glass
If
cliff
it
it.
had
We'll
gone wrong, right?
We'll see. There's still time for it to go
Right.
wrong. But I mean, come on. That's what.
All right, so our three options here are the renewable duofecta of increased car sales in California plus the grid. Wait.
No, plus the fact that it costs
Plus
way
the,
less
the
to charge your
cheapness
car
of charging your car. The grid didn't crash in Europe, which
because of solar.
feels good and also sad because it didn't crash during the worst melty heat wave in the
we're
history
sort
of humanity.
on the right track, right?
And UPS finally gives drivers 8 more cents, and it actually is.
I do feel like there's a clear winner here.
All right, Jesse, you start. I'm a little mixed on these.
Really? I'm
You're
surprised.
mixed.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll go with UPS.
UPS. Jesse
gonna go with
goes with UPS. I don't. I feel like their UPS won by accident. Like they were forced into a corner, negotiated, gave them 8
That's a
cents,
fair
and then
point.
they're going to benefit tremendously from putting an air conditioner in and giving them $1 more.
A living wage.
Yeah,
right?
living wage. Like that
I mean,
seems
they were
like
gonna
the bare
benefit
minimum.
anyways. People are capitalism. People are buying so much shit, and they are delivering it. Like, you might as well treat them well.
But I think the gooder story to me is that the grid didn't fail. I actually am going to go with that. And I think it's good because it's like a live test case of what everyone's been talking about for 20 years. Like, if you invest in renewables, it's better for the grid, it's better for the economy, it's good. Like, not only will we avoid future heat waves, but we'll survive them.
I have a question though. It's hot
While
there.
all living underground.
Yeah.
Do you think that people are gonna want it? They don't have ACs there. Would the grid hold up if people started buying ACs?
That's a good
putting
question.
This is a
ACs in?
very
I'm not
fair
answering
point.
that question. I don't know. Chris,
All
you got to
right.
break the tie.
So I go with UPS here.
Oh,
And
boo.
the reason
clear
is
right
because I think
answer.
on
Audience,
a-
weigh in here. Boo, boo. Oh, look, they agree with me.
Oh, good. I hate our audience. It's your audience, not my audience. So, no, I go with UPS here because I just think in terms of, yes, they sort of fell over themselves to get to this position, UPS, right, to benefit from this. But I think it does sort of check a box for labor in general to say, this is what happens when you give us what we need, right? You actually do benefit from this. It's a case study. It's a proof of concept.
I suppose I will allow it, mostly because I have no choice. All right, which means, so goodliest of the week then is the UPS gets 8 more cents and somebody wants to work there
Lots
finally.
of people
That
wanna
means
work
we're on Exhaustingest of the Week with Jesse, the Money Whisperer, who has 3. And then we'll go to Story of the Week. Damien does not look like he's going to make it.
No, he's on the beach.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
All right, so my first exhaustingest of the week
God,
is...
even your voice just dropped. It's like you're already exhausted
I
by
just
it.
read it, and I was like,
I had to
oh.
take a nap after these.
All right, we got to cover what's happening in Hawaii. So that means
Yeah.
climate change is still exhausting.
Okay.
So devastating Hawaii fires. There's basically a whole town, Lahaina, on Maui that is no
Just
longer
gone.
exist. Yeah,
Yeah.
The
It's just not
pictures
there.
are insane.
Like harrowing pictures.
Like,
Yeah.
insane. But
Yeah, I saw some videos of people like driving through, and there's the videos of it's just crazy. So 55 people have died so far, but that number is going to climb.
they're saying it's going to be much higher. And
Yeah.
there were people who were actually jumping into the ocean to avoid the fire because it was coming so fast, and they had to be rescued in the ocean to escaping the. That's
A lot of
nuts.
businesses, there's like a lot of food truck culture that like just businesses decimated. And a quote, we all know this, but Catherine Hayhoe, the chief scientist at the Nature Conservatory, tweeted, climate change doesn't usually start the fires, but it intensifies them, increasing the area they burn and making them much more dangerous. I mean, I would love to say we all know this, but there are still some people
Yeah.
that
Well,
that's the
refuse to
problem.
believe this.
Catherine, do us a favor. Don't tweet it anymore. Go somewhere
That's
else
true,
and
that's
send
true.
it, because you're just
Go
tweeting
on
it to the
Threads.
alt-right
I
trolls at
believe
this
you're,
point.
you're Xing it now. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
You're
God.
zooting
Which
it?
which
What-
Yeah, what is
Xing?
the-
Xing just sounds
Yeah.
like you're on a porn site
Yeah,
all the
that's-
time. Like, let's X it. Like,
Probably what he wants. So there we go. Climate change, Hawaii, fires. I mean, we're going to hear about more fires in California and Oregon. I mean, we also had all the fires.
They can drive
from
away in their new electric
Canada.
vehicles.
Canada is still on fire. That hasn't
Canada's
stopped.
still on fire,
Yeah.
true.
But in California, they can drive away in their new electric
Zoom, zoom.
vehicles.
Very
That's true.
fastly.
That's true.
So-
A lot more electric vehicles, a lot cheaper to fill
And as
them up.
long as you have dual batteries, you'll be able to escape
You're
pretty
gone.
fast.
Yeah, go.
All right, so then my second exhaustingest of the week are headlines like this. This summer, women flexed their spending power.
Yeah,
So
flex.
I think this was supposed
Flex,
to
baby.
like intrigue a reader like me. I'm a woman. I got money. I want to spend it.
Well, you have money?
But
Can I have some?
Not a ton. That's why I'm still driving a car that has no AC. So
Me too.
I get it, UPS.
She was one of the UPS clicks,
My
right?
kid-
Oh, indeed.
My kids
look for
call
UPS.
my car the Crappy Express.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We all know. All right. So I read this headline, and at first I'm like, huh. And then I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with this. Let me find it.
That's clickbait.
So
for
what
sure.
media wants us to think is that women are coming out to support other women. That we're supporting Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Greta Gerwig, all of these artists that are producing these female empowerment pieces of art. But the reality behind this is that let's take Beyonce, let's take Taylor Swift. Let's look at Live Nation, who is
Yes,
actually, we
correct.
talked about this a little bit last week. Live Nation is benefiting massively from this.
Yep.
So decided to go to Free Flow Analytics. Shout
Yes.
out.
I was waiting for the first
Sponsored
shout
by
out here.
freefloatanalytics.com. Go there and you can get what Jesse's about to talk about.
Yeah, it's really clearly laid out. You go there, we have this nice pie chart of ownership and influence, and Live Nation is probably one of the most appallingly male-dominated boards
that's correct.
I've seen.
That's correct. It is.
It is. So
It's the
there's
Jeremy's
60
razors of boards.
There's 66% of it is owned by two men,
Ooh.
but then you can go further. There's only 18% of the board is female, and there's a 60% female power gap. So one woman has 2%, the other woman has 0%
Zero,
influence.
Yeah. I
What?
love this.
Wow, she might not even exist.
How that has to be like the highest power gap related to like percentage of bodies on the board.
Well, I'd actually just like even in and of itself, right? So the biggest tour maybe of all time is
Eras.
Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
right now. And Live Nation, who ran the ticket sales, broke when trying to sell them, right? People still turned out. It's supposed to be the summer of women. You've got, outside of just the tours, you've got Barbie, you've got like the Women's World Cup. It's like a very, supposed to be empowering women summer. And the people who are making all of the money from empowering women
Yes.
are not the artists themselves. It is the
All of
dudes
these
with the
men
broken tech.
That have stock
Yeah.
compensation.
And there you go.
I'm not sure. I don't know, and I don't have the data to back this up. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say there are no women on FIFA's board like
I would
benefiting
guess.
from the World Cup.
I would say that's probably true. In
Yeah.
fact, when the U.S. lost, the conservatives in this country were like, if they weren't busy asking for equal pay,
Oh, yeah.
they might have focused on soccer.
Right.
I just love the joke that they're not in on. If they would stop asking to get paid the same as their counterparts on the male side, they'd be better at soccer. They've won 2 World Cups in a
They're
row.
way
How
better
many
than-
do they have to win? You got to win 10?
Yeah.
The men can't get it past the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty appalling.
Yeah, this is a great poll. I was sad that I didn't think of it as asshole of the week, but I love this story.
Pretty exhausting, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then I have, this one's just, I don't really need to expand beyond the headline. Conservative Justice Clarence Thomas took lavish vacations with a billionaire who criticized student loan forgiveness months before the Supreme Court struck it down.
That's so
This
weird.
isn't a surprise, but why it's exhausting is that there was an investigation done that revealed he has been getting gifts from billionaires, millionaires for years. And it includes 38 vacations, 26 private jet flights, VIP passes to sporting events, private stays at luxury resorts. Like, and then there was an ethics expert that obviously came on and was like, this is not ethical. And the fact that he doesn't report all of it. So he is getting, well, hopefully we'll get in some trouble for not reporting all of it.
No,
how does,
he sets the laws, right? It's really hard to hold that guy accountable.
That's true. I just don't, I'm like, really? This can exist for so long, and there can be a direct correlation. Like, he goes away with a billionaire that speaks out against student loan debt, and months later, he's voting with the majority against student. I don't know. It's just wild to me.
That means our three exhaustingest, which are exhausting, is
I'm so tired.
Hawaii fires, climate change still. Headlines about the women flexing their power this summer, and Justice Clarence Thomas and his bro love with billionaires.
His kickback bro love.
Chris, you have an immediate vote?
No, I don't have an immediate vote. It's not Clarence Thomas for me. I mean, that's tiring, but not surprising. I guess that's going to go on for a long time. Nor is women's inequality or climate change at all surprising.
No.
I'm just trying to figure out which one is making me more tired right now.
Just say them in your head, like, silently.
Yeah, and like which one kind of puts me to sleep.
Hawaiian fire. Women.
I think for me it's going to be climate change.
Ooh.
And which is not to say that I'm not wildly
Got
exhausted by women's inequality and the men getting paid off the sort of talent of the women doing all the real work, which is just
that's so weird
history, right?
Yeah.
But
where's Ari?
But it's
I need Ari to do the work for my whole company.
But with climate change, the deciding factor for me with climate change was that the heat just makes me tired, right? It's so hot out.
Actually, literally
it's so
tired.
hot out in general from climate change and what's causing the fires. And like, I'm just tired from that.
That's the most literal anyone's ever taken exhausting.
That's how thin the margin was between picking these two.
Literally. I'm going to go with women flexing their spending power. The segment brought to you by freefloatanalytics.com, where you can get all the data. You didn't say how much the CEOs made in 2022, which is absurd.
The CFOs, the amount the CFO made was like
$52 million. The CFO took home, $139 million. Greg Maffei, the CEO, and the Maffei thing is like he's got a lot of power in a lot of places. He's on like 20 different boards. The fact that every time you see, in fact, this is something to pay attention to. Right now, the conservatives, we covered last week that the asshole lawyer, Ed Blum, who's suing a venture fund that's a black women-owned venture fund.
Like the only one.
Invests in black women-owned startups. He's getting sued for focusing on black women and saying it's discriminatory. Meanwhile, when you look at who makes the money in reality on all of these things, it's always a white guy. And we covered on this show how Rosalind Brewer, CEO of Walgreens, talking about like they're flip-flopping on abortion pills. Well, really the influence is owned by one white guy who owns the majority of shares and is actually married to another executive at the I mean, like, it's always something like that. That is perpetually exhausting, and made even worse when you see a woman like Taylor Swift being so successful, where she's bonusing her entire crew. She single-handedly moved inflation in Sweden, right? Like the GDP of Taylor Swift is higher than most countries. And the biggest beneficiaries are not going to be Taylor Swift. It's going to be the stockholders in Live Nation, who are white men. Like, that's the biggest beneficiary. That's perpetually exhausting to me. So I'm going with that.
But I will always say, none of that matters if we're all on fire.
This is true. Although it is nice to go down in flames while watching a decent tour. Which brings us to, Jesse, you have to break the tie between these.
I gotta go with all of my data that I used, my analytic skills that I've just honed and
That is correct.
Choose summer women flex their spending.
Okay, that is absolutely correct. Which means the most exhausting thing is women. no, sorry.
I'm not sure
You
that was
got
the
that.
takeaway.
Jeremy, you got that wrong.
Which brings us to
Oh man, we have a new word.
something else. We're doing the
Jeremy.
We're doing the story of the week last in the hopes that Damien could have showed up from his power outage, which he did not.
It's
show up from.
11:02. He
So-
should have been on.
Should have been on 2 minutes ago.
We're gonna rip through story of the week here because he picked five different stories of the week. How there's 5 stories of the week. All right, number 1, the legal assault on corporate diversity efforts has begun. Conservative groups are actually challenging Amazon, Comcast, a number of companies over their DEI efforts, including Amazon has been sued in Texas over a program that offered $10,000 to Black or Latino-owned delivery service contractors. You want to know how many of those there are? There's like 6. They offered $10,000 extra as like a boost, grant. They're calling that discriminatory to the 6 people. Starbucks directors and executives are being sued by shareholder groups. Kellogg is being sued for being a woke workplace. And this is some of these lawsuits are being run by a nonprofit run by Stephen Miller, Trump's, the angel and devil on your shoulder. It was Trump's Trump had basically a devil and a devil on the shoulder. Well, the
needed
darker
it.
devil was Stephen Miller.
The fact
It
that
was
he even needed
eviler
devils.
devil.
Scary.
So that's one story. A second story here is ESPN launches a sports book partnership with Penn Entertainment. Basically, they licensed their name, ESPN, to gambling, which is a move. And Damien's pointing out here there are a lot of stories this week about Disney positioning itself to sell itself to Apple. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of long ties on the Disney board and the Apple board, actually. The data that you can find if you bought data from Free Float, it's in there.
You'd see this.
You'd see this. It's there. I can tell you.
With your
We know.
eyes.
With your eyeballs, yes. That's the second story. That one doesn't feel story of the weekish to me. But your third story is Zoom now saying it won't use your videos or chats to train AI without consent after surreptitiously putting in its terms of service the thing that everyone clicks on, so it just says yes. There's a line in there that says all of your content with no exceptions would be used to train AI. Now they won't do that. I'd like to actually credit us for changing that.
Yeah.
It was probably us.
I can almost guarantee that.
It was nowhere. It was on like 2 tech blogs. We picked it up on this show, talked about it all week this week, and I think we changed Zoom. I think we...
Maybe their CEO listens to us.
If you're listening, you are a dual class dictator, so we're glad you make the shift. But come on, just come on the show and talk to us about the process. We can hash it out. We're glad you did the right-ish thing after being yelled at by us. Number 4, rating agencies S&P Global stops ESG credit risk scores. So this is a misleading headline.
This feels nerdy.
It's deep cut. S&P does credit ratings. So does Fitch and Moody's. As part of S&P's credit ratings, they added in an ESG score, a 1 through 5 score on E and S and G. They launched that 2 years ago. They've now taken it out. The headlines are claiming it's because of the political backlash around ESG. The reality is, this is the reality that I fully believe. Knowing what the methodology was, having read all the documents about it, the score sucked and nobody wanted it. So it's being framed, I think, as political backlash. But I think the reality is it was a crappy score. And then finally, Biden's DOJ doesn't think the Sackler family should get released from opioid liability, and the Supreme Court agrees. The Department of Justice actually looked to stop the settlement with the Sackler family because the settlement gave them full carte blanche, no liability for any future issues with the opioid crisis. And the Supreme Court actually agreed. They said, that might not be right. Let's bring this to a hearing. So those are your 5 stories. The corporate assault on, or the legal assault on diversity efforts at corporations, ESPN Sportbook, Zoom flip-flopping AI reading your thoughts. S&P Global's ESG scores sort of sucked. And Biden's Department of Justice halting the Sackler family no liability settlement. That's 5 stories of the week to choose from.
That's a lot. There's a lot going
It's too
on
many.
here.
It's too many. All right, Damien.
We need some rules
too
around
many.
this.
Come
Let's
on.
set up
Come
some
on.
guardrails
Yeah.
here.
All right. Does anybody want to go first? We're all going to vote on this.
I will. Zoom.
Zoom. I like it. I like that you went right to Zoom because
Zoom
that's
mostly
in our
because I
wheelist house.
understand it.
Zoom by default for knowing what it means. Chris.
Exactly the same reason.
Chris says Zoom, which means my vote doesn't
And
matter.
also, it started here, right?
It did. It
with
started
Free Float,
here.
so-
It's us.
It doesn't matter. I think actually the story of the year is going to be the diversity, like this bizarre anti-woke, like this bifurcated effort to basically prop up oil, gas, and coal and kill diversity. Why does anyone care about these diversity efforts? I know you're a fragile white man and you're really snowflaking. So that one I think is going to go on forever. I think the sportsbook thing is a story, but not the story. S&P Global I think is a fake story. The Sackler family was the only one that made me think.
Yeah,
I had to stop on that one and be like, that's
that
kind of a big deal.
That could be big.
It could.
It's not yet.
It's not yet is the problem. But that could be a big deal, as in they could wipe out the billions of the Sackler family if they allow more liability. But I would have also gone with Zoom. So that makes the perfect sweep of Zoom, which we called here, which brings us to the end of the
Started
show.
here.
And we have predictions and we have who won the week. Now, Chris, you can just do this on the fly. We'll start with Jesse. Do you have a winner this week, Jesse? I didn't even check to see if you don't have a winner.
I didn't even do a winner
So
this
look,
week.
I'm the only one with a winner this week. Okay, so you guys can do it on the fly or skip it. I think the winner of the week is anti-woke headline writers, because they get to write things like S&P's credit scores, amid political backlash, and then they write up all the anti-woke motion. And I've noticed more and more, even the Missouri headline that I did, which was what a new Missouri ESG rule could mean for your investments. It means nothing for your investments. It means 0 things. It actually is a piece of paper you sign that says, please use any data you want. So I think the winner of the week was headline writers talking about the anti-woke backlash, because I think it's fake.
They do get off pretty easily now that you pose it like that. Like they claim that they're actually going to prove something, and then what's the whole story about?
Well, even if you read the anti-woke legislation itself, they talk about like North Carolina bans ESG from its investments, right? That's what it says. The reality is North Carolina said you cannot use ESG and then say unless it's pecuniary, as in unless it's material to the investment decision. Which is like saying, don't go for a bike ride unless you're going for a bike ride to get someplace, right?
Leisure bike.
Nobody, BlackRock didn't go out and add in ESG because they thought it was cute and fun. They added it in because they thought it made sense to add in. They're coming at it from so all of the headlines seem to suggest that there's some massive banning backlash against ESG, when in reality, nobody's real banning it. They're all fake banning it. And they a little bit are doing a favor. They're getting rid of greenwashers. The people who are dropping like flies are the ones who, like S&P, had a sucky score to begin with, right? And then they're just what's the point of this? So that's my winner of the week, because they have a job in perpetuity as long as we keep getting headlines like this. Any other winners, or should we go right to predictions?
No, this week stunk.
Nobody won this week. Hip hop turned 50. I just looked that up.
That's
exciting.
true.
Today,
is a winner.
on this day in 1973.
How did they
was the
select
birthday of
that
hip hop.
day?
Yeah.
According to this,
One person.
it was a dance party. It launched a music.
Oh.
According
Okay.
to this,
According-
he says on a
yeah.
podcast pointing to a computer.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to quote where this is coming from.
Apple.
Which means we're on to predictions, and there's only 2 predictions, one from Damien and one from me, because you fools.
Oh wait, I have a prediction.
Oh, you have a prediction? Chris,
not
kick
gonna
us
like it.
off. What's your prediction?
Arsenal is going to play second place in the Premier League. They're going to be
I
their
don't
final
like
standing.
that.
See,
I don't
told
like
you
that.
weren't going to like that. That's my prediction.
I'm a Liverpool guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Since when?
Since
That's dumb. You're dumb.
Yay, sports. Woohoo.
Jesse, do you have any predictions or no?
No, not
Of course
this week.
not. Damien has a prediction, which is Bob Iger came back to sell Disney to Apple, which actually
That might actually happen.
that might actually happen. That feels like a very
I feel
real
like Damien
prediction.
picks predictions that are. I feel like he waits until like a month before when it's really realistic and then chooses it and then wants accolades for an amazing prediction.
That's called genius. That's what that's called. My prediction is that Jed York sues Chegg, the company he's on the board for embarrassingly saying that he has, in the skills matrix, he has no skill in subscriptions. It says that in the skills matrix. He has skills everywhere else, but no subscription skills. Everyone else on the board has that, stating, quote, I have both Disney Plus and Netflix accounts, and I even subscribe to Vanity Fair. Proving that he does have
He's
a
a master
skill.
of subscriptions.
That's our show. Even with Riverside dying, that's our show today. This is Business Pants. It was August 10th? 11th. Oh my God. It's already almost school. That's Jesse the Money Whisperer and Chris.
It's just Chris.
And I am your analyst hole, Matt Mascardi. We are Free Float. Go to www.freefloatanalytics.com. The show's sponsored by them. Go sign up for that. I don't know why you haven't signed up for that if you're listening to this show. It's like...
Even I did.
I mean, like, even if you get nothing out of it, just go do it. And I guarantee you will get something out of it. So go do that because they're an excellent sponsor because they're us. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye.